We open the show, physically they've been betrayed, or emotionally. Or pornographically.
Yeah, for
You've
sure.
been betrayed. And so how does that picture of falling in love again look?
Well, first of all, I didn't know that, so I had to beg God to help me.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I always liked him. I mean, we always had fun and we always laughed.
But you couldn't have liked him much right then.
No, I didn't. I was fed up. I mean, I was wounded. I was left out to dry. I mean, it was awful.
It was a double betrayal.
It was a double betrayal. But I knew in my heart of hearts that I had to beg God to find something to love in him again. Mm-hmm. And he honored that. It took a lot of time. It took like a year to just barely. I kept thinking, well, I think I've said this on here before. It kind of looks like a duck. He's starting to quack like a duck. I think he might be a duck.
All right. So, did you have to remember the things that you loved about George to start with? Did God take you back down that path?
We chose, when he first came back home, we sat down and we discussed what we wanted to keep out of the old marriage.
Right.
And we did that. We both knew we wanted to keep the sense of humor because he was crazy and I was crazy, and we liked that.
Right.
And obviously we had the 6 children that we shared. We didn't want to divorce for that reason.
Right. And this was on the initial end
when George came home
for the final time.
For the final time, and I knew his walk was so different. Though he wasn't like the other times.
But you were still mad at him.
I was still mad and hurt. Yeah,
sure.
Hurt and very betrayed.
Right.
But his heart was so different, and his heart was so in tune with Christ that it made just living with him palatable. But then I had to, that's when the begging of please, Lord, let me find a way to
trust again,
trust and love him. Mm-hmm. And he will do that. It did not happen instantly, and I think so many marriages they want it yesterday, and I wanted it right away.
Sure.
Because I was going to reinvest in this human being that God created. God created George in his own image, just like he created me.
So what positives did you, and I can only imagine that that's how it had to begin, that you would focus on the positives instead of the negative. You had to let the negatives go, didn't you?
Yes, absolutely.
So what was if you can remember, that's taking you back a while, girl.
Yeah, gosh, 30-something years.
But can you remember the day maybe when George walked in the house and you anticipate, we've talked about, do you eagerly anticipate?
Well, I anticipated him coming from day one, believe it or not, because I had been 4.5 years alone with raising 6 kids by myself.
But when it felt different for you?
When
it felt like the old eagerness?
Probably a year. I'm guessing now, but...
What was it that... Do you know what clicked in you that day?
He was so different to me.
The walk with God.
His walk with God, but
his
interaction with me from the day he walked in the door. His treatment of me he was always good to me. He was always kind and all that, except for that big heap of.
Did his value assessment of you change?
Yes,
that was important to you.
He always, he would tell this to many, many, many couples that we mentored. I always knew I could take Cassie to the bank. She was like Fort Knox, but he said her walk was her walk and her talk was her talk. And I'm not just trying to toot my own horn, but I'm just telling you I was consistent.
Your integrity was in place.
It was in place. And
your spiritual
integrity.
And
he wanted the Jesus that I knew. And that's what he started finding.
You just hit on something again that we've talked about with this Enoch in the walk with God. Your walk with God impressed
strong.
Upon your husband's
Absolutely
heart.
Did. He wanted what I had, and he tells that over. He told it to everybody he knew.
He did.
I wanted what Cassie had.
It was attractive.
It was.
I remember him
a lure.
saying that.
He did. It was a lure that he wanted it, and that was good. And that makes it easier when you're trying to reconcile, because reconciling is hard to do. I'm mentoring so many women right now, and the reconciling is difficult.
Is it stubborn? Is it a stubborn
Yes.
pride?
Well, they're guarded.
And they're guarded
because they don't want, if they put their neck out there again,
yes,
they're afraid they're going to be
chopped
hurt.
off again.
Yes, and I totally support them,
Right.
and I tell them I will do whatever I can to help. Your husband is not going to be like my George, because there's no two people
Right.
alike.
Right.
But if the man or the other spouse wants the marriage as much as you do, you got a pretty darn good shot at having an awesome marriage.
How could you tell that was genuine in George?
Oh my gosh. I think I'll probably cry now. I've never known anyone with such a repentant heart.
Mm-hmm.
Ever.
Mm-hmm.
He so hated that he wounded Jesus.
Mm-hmm. And wounded you.
And me, but I was
Mm-hmm.
second. He came to grips with that. He knew he hurt the Lord.
Mm.
So it's all good now, though.
Critical. But are you listening to this? If you are the one who has wounded, if you are the one who has been wounded,
Either
are
way.
you hearing what Cassie is saying to you today? And why God pressed this upon my heart early this morning? It's the walk with God.
It's
It
plain
is
old
the
Jesus.
walk. 571 chat. Don't go away.
WFIA, The Spirit.
You know, Dad, this camping trip's a great idea.
Yep, just a roaring campfire and a tent. What's that?
Oh, no, it's the Al Real. He's letting us know about some great outdoor deals on Owry.club.
Why is that a bad thing?
Well, no computers, no mobile devices. What were you thinking?
Well,
Great gift ideas and terrific deals on things you use every day. Save up to 50% or more. Online at Owry.club. The wise way to shop. Owry.club.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a Select Quote agent with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a $300,000 group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and can't take it with him. Well, I impartially shopped the highly rated term life insurance companies we represent and found Ray, who is 41 and takes medication to control his cholesterol, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $26 a month. That's almost twice the coverage for less than half of what he had paid. If SelectQuote hasn't shopped for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 1-800-423-4557. That's 1-800-423-4557. 1-800-423-4557. Or go to SelectQuote.com. We shop. You save. Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your price can vary depending on your health, insurance company, and other factors not available in all states.
Shakes and Scallops, roofing, shutters and gutters, soffit and fascia, vinyl sidings, doors, and yes, windows. Along with their attractive merchandise and professional installation, they also have an incredible peace of mind lifetime warranty. Yep, from the date of installation, Window World will be there to service any defects in material or workmanship. Now that's the kind of people I love to deal with. Call Window World today at 502-671-7777, 671-7777, and visit their website at windowworldlouisville.com.
You're listening to Just Ask Joyce on WFIA, The Spirit.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, I made Cassie cry. I'm sorry, Cassie.
Okay. I'm okay now. To regroup.
Well, we do. But, you know, isn't it amazing?
Well, sweet, though.
It
I
is.
cry because it's sweet for George. I mean, it was just wonderful to watch him.
Well, that walk